Welcome to We the People Devlog number 3. In this Devlog episode, we'd like to cover some fairly important topics and showcase some of the awesome progress being made behind the scenes. But before we do, as always, we have a question for you, the community. In the last episode, we asked what you guys thought about us adding ghillie suits to the game, and the overwhelming response was yes, but with genuinely useful feedback regarding balance and other considerations for us to keep in mind. This is something we are looking into, and we'll work towards balancing when that time comes. Since then, we've begun working on a couple awesome ideas. Beyond a regular ghillie suit, we're looking into alternatives that match more urban environments. Let us know what you guys think. Now for this episode's question. From a game design standpoint, we've been looking at a variety of ways how we can improve visual cues in the extraction shooter genre. In our first devlog episode, we showcased the body decomposition system. In this episode, I'd like to introduce you guys to another concept I've been thinking about. In most games in our genre, you'll see a consistent trend with the way they handle equipped gear. Take a plate carrier for example. Regardless of how much loot you've stuffed into your inventory slots, the plate carrier looks the exact same when it's empty as it does when it's full. Imagine for a moment you have an empty plate carrier, but then you start to throw mags into it, and now the plate carrier dynamically reflects that change. As it begins to fill up, it starts to look genuinely decked out. This would provide another layer of skill, and allow perceptive We the People players to discern how much loot any given player or enemy NPC has, based on appearance alone. Think about what it's like wiping a 5-man, and not knowing who to prioritize looting first. With a system like this, it would be very obvious who's a kitted loot goblin and who isn't. Would this be something that interests you, or do you find game design choices incorporating visual cues like this one to be completely needless or overkill? Let us know in the comments below your thoughts and feedback, and we'll try to take as much of it into consideration as we can. In our last devlog, we described what our intentions were moving forward, specifically a game plan following Tech Demo 1 that was showcased at Steam Next Fest back in June. The goal has been a large-scale rework of all of our systems, rebuilding them entirely from scratch in C++, which has allowed us to actually begin making an optimized and future-proof game, leaving behind the unoptimized, buggy proof of concept that we started with. I'm happy to say we've been on track and making some great progress that we would like to share with you guys. We'll be covering the following topics. During our tech demo back in June, performance was one of the last things we considered, and unfortunately the average FPS really suffered for it. Now we've made optimization a major priority, dramatically increasing the amount of FPS we get across all of our maps using something Lucas designed in-house called the Optimizer Core. This reduces the overall draw on our nanite and base passes, and as a result, Alpha Build 0.1 shows a massive improvement in performance. To accompany these changes, we've also included a major overhaul to our settings menu. Targeting a wider variety of machines, players will now be able to choose between many graphics options. This is important as it expands who can play We the People. We also heard a lot of feedback regarding the lack of control options, so we've since added the ability to change your mouse sensitivity as well as invert your mouse controls. To provide flexibility in the future, we've begun laying the groundwork for players to be able to assign keybinds to their liking. This process has required us to ditch the now outdated input actions for Unreal's new, enhanced input action system. This won't be instantaneous, but is a conversion we have been prioritizing and will continue to focus on moving forward. Interacting with the world is one of the most necessary aspects of the game, and has become a major priority for us over the past few months. We knew we wanted a modular system, and something that could be extended simply. We started with the basics, allowing us to pick up items and interact with containers. Then we moved into something a bit more intricate, like door interactions. We wanted to have a variety of options, like opening the door traditionally, a tactical open, allowing for something like a flashbang or grenade to be thrown in, or a kick, which would maintain the most violence of action out of all the options. All of these choices could be extended and simply added to anything we deem an interactable object. Those of you who are familiar with our tech demo showcase back in June will remember how bad our inventory system was. Redesigning this system was probably our biggest time sink over the last few months, mainly because it ties into almost everything. Making modularity a priority, we want a system that can work in unison with our other module-based systems, namely the medical, interaction, and customizer, without breaking any of those systems if we decide to make changes to them down the line. This has been a challenge, and although it's not in its final form, we have laid the groundwork now that will allow us to extend upon these systems moving forward. Bringing in both visual and sound effects to our ballistic system has actually been a lot simpler than expected. Thankfully, there are people out there who have already done a lot of the heavy lifting for incorporating features like these into our game. Being able to shoot a tree and see bits of bark splinter and fly off, or at a wall and seeing drywall and dust kick up is great. And although it is not exactly what we want long term, small details like this go a long way towards adding to the immersion this early on in development. Alpha Build 0.1 will include our first iteration of Shooter AI. This is exciting for us because it acts as the first real challenge that players will encounter in this build. Although it is in its early stages, Shooter AI will grow to become complex and vary in difficulty depending on what enemy type it is. They currently employ guard and patrol tactics, but will soon utilize squad tactics in the future. Based on the enemy AI infrastructure we've been adopting, we are working to build a system that provides unique outcomes for players. This system gives a set of unique intentions and motivations to each enemy AI type. Some might use group tactics, follow orders from a leader, even assume a new leader if the original one dies. They can also flank or pursue the player. As you might expect, we've had to tune them down a bit, as they were ruthlessly killing us at every turn. Having added some variability to their accuracy, we now actually stand somewhat of a chance entering into the port POI on Coastal. For now, it's fun to run around the map and test out the gunplay. The last thing to do is show a badass teaser for our map Coastal, where you can see all the things I just talked about in action. There are countless features added that aren't getting the spotlight in this devlog, but our hope is to keep working and get the next playable ready for you to try, explore, and see them for yourselves. Although starting from scratch and getting the build to this point has been a challenge, and an overall exercise in patience, we appreciate you guys sticking with us and supporting the project. Luckily, now that we've done the hardest part, which was taking an idea from proof of concept to an actual playable, updates will come much more frequently as the next chapter in our development will be growing to scale, improving upon the framework we've created, adding new firearms, gear, items, and fully implementing the systems we have in mind. If you've made it this far, feel free and leave a like, or comment something positive down below. Make sure to subscribe, and follow us on our socials to keep up to date with everything we're doing in between these devlog updates. And once again, thank you for watching.